What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Gameball with your host, Matson Montilla. Today, we have a lot to talk about with two big-time wildcard matchups, great storylines, the Cleveland Browns traveling to Houston and play the Texans, and then to cap it off at night, the Chiefs playing against the Dolphins, Tyreek Hill's reunion in Kansas City for this playoff game. 0-degree temperatures, negative 30-degree wind chill, $30 tickets. I mean, what's not to like, am I right? First game I mentioned, though, Browns, Houston, intriguing matchup. The vet, the full circle moment for Joe Flacco, going against the rookie quarterback and C.J. Stroud, who's had a very memorable, a very explosive, a really exciting rookie season. Easily the offensive rookie of the year. Premature MVP talks. I was not necessarily behind those MVP talks, but it's just props to show how well he was doing for the Houston Texans this season, leading them to a divisional title, going 10-7, overachieving all expectations. And as I mentioned, Joe Flacco bouncing around the league, right? Had a great career in Baltimore, won a Super Bowl there, then went to the Broncos, and then the Jets, and neither spots kind of panned out for him. He was off the roster, then got signed to the practice spot for Cleveland this season, and then given a full-time roster position and is a starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. It's also a story of hope. Not hope for the players, but hope for the cities. Cleveland, for the past, I guess my entire lifetime, has been in shambles. Couldn't get a quarterback right. I like Baker, but they moved off of him, so that's not our guy. And since then, they've just been moving around, trying to find a quarterback who's stable. They found one in 37-year-old Joe Flacco, and it looks like Cleveland could potentially make a push this playoffs. You look at Houston, right, and they've been just as bad for the past few seasons. They didn't have a quarterback. They didn't know what to do. They made some disagreeable trades with the public, right? The DeAndre Hopkins trade, I guess, was the one I was referring to. And when that happened, there wasn't much excitement left in Houston. But C.J. Stroud, the rookie quarterback, is coming out strong. Rookie of the year, looks to be the future of Houston. So with that said, let's start talking about the Cleveland Browns against the Houston Texans. In this matchup, I think the Cleveland Browns will become victorious and win this game. And I think it's because of one big glaring thing. It's not a glaring issue, but it's just the talent standpoint. You look at the Browns, and top to bottom on their roster, their talent just outmatches Houston. And I'm not just saying, hey, if you look at Cleveland's number one wide receiver, Amari Cooper, he's better than Nico Collins. I'm saying when you look at the matchups, Denzel Ward, better than Nico Collins. Greg Newsome, better than, I believe, Noah Brown will be the wide receiver too. Mike Emerson has been balling, better than Robert Woods. So I just think when you look at this team and you look at how they're built, Cleveland's just a more talented team. And Houston's done well this year, but they've also overachieved in terms of, I mean, it's great to overachieve, but I think that they aren't necessarily built for this playoff game. And so when I look at this matchup, I think Cleveland will win this game in decent fashion. And I'll start on the offensive side of the ball. First off, Joe Flacco. He's been balling, right? In his first 5 starts with Cleveland, so his past 5 starts, he's had each game 250 passing yards or more and multiple passing touchdowns. He's the first quarterback in NFL history to deliver at least 250 passing yards and at least 2 passing touchdowns in his first 5 starts with a new team. You also look at the receivers around him. Amari Cooper has been playing really well this season, has over 1,000 yards receiving, 1,200 yards receiving, I should say. He's really kind of found this connection with Joe Flacco. Then you look at David Njoku. He's found a great connection with Joe Flacco. Elijah Moore's been playing well. And I think that Joe Flacco and this passing offense has really found a groove with each other. And I think it's going to be hard to stop. I know Jalen Petry's had a great year at safety for the Houston Texans. Derek Stingley playing phenomenal. He's having a heck of a season. He's had a lot of passes deflected, a lot of interceptions. He's made a lot of plays. He's showing why he was the number 3 pick in the draft. But I still believe that Cleveland in this passing game is just a little bit more mature and a little bit more lethal than what this Houston secondary can handle. When you look at that front seven, or not front seven, excuse me, the offensive line for Cleveland going against this front seven for Houston, I think Cleveland has a great offensive line. They have a great center. They have Joel Patino at tackle. They have Wyatt Teller at the other, Patino and Teller both guards. Both their tackles are out, but they found a groove too with their backups. And I think this offensive line is going to be able to hold steady against Houston's front seven. And I know a lot of people might be thinking, well, Cleveland, right? Both their starting tackles are out. They've been out since December 12th. They've missed the past 3 games that Joe Flacco has started. And in those 3 games, the backups came in and they didn't perform great on paper, right? Giving up the offensive line for Cleveland has given up 5 sacks in 3 games. So you're thinking, how can they survive without DeJuan Jones, who's been playing amazing? How can they survive without Jedrick Wills, who's been playing amazing? Tackles are important, yes. But in those 3 games, they've held strong if you look beyond the sack total, right? If you look at the numbers, Joe Flacco has been doing well. The running game has kind of been consistent still. But let's look at the sacks. As I mentioned, in his past 3 starts, he's been sacked 5 times in 3 games. Further on to that point, they gave up 4 sacks in their first game they played together as a unit. So they got hurt December 12th, DeJuan Jones and Jedrick Wills. And so that next game that Cleveland played, they played the Bears, and they gave up 4 sacks in that game. And they still went on to win that game. So obviously you're going to come out as backups, and you're going to be starting against Chicago, who has a decent defensive line with Montez Sweat coming on strong. And that's going to be a bit of a shell shock. It's going to be hard to defend right away. But then they found a groove. They played Houston that next week. And I don't look too far into that saying, oh, well, they handled Houston then, they'll handle them now, because like Will Anderson wasn't playing. But I still do think this offensive line's doing well. And then the next game after that, they played the Jets and only allowed 1 sack. And that's against a great defensive line with Quinnen Williams up front and Jermaine Johnson there. So, long story short, I would not read too far into these tackles because I think they're going to be doing really well. And they also have a great interior offensive line who's going to help block this Houston Texans front 7. And I also think that Houston's defense, I've had some players that are performing better than what they are. I don't think they can continue at this pace. One of those players being Blake Cashman, who has been playing really well at linebacker. I think he has over 100 tackles. But him being your top linebacker, I think, is a bit of a concern. Steven Nelson, the other corner, second of Derek Stingley, he's had, I believe, 4 interceptions this season. And again, good numbers, playing well, but he's 30 years old. And I just don't think that he is going to be able to play consistent enough. I don't think this defense will be able to play consistent enough to limit this Browns offense. On the flip side of the ball, you look at Houston, and you look at their offense, and you say, wow. First off, wow, C.J. Stroud. Now that's a baller right there. And I completely get it. I mean, he's put up 4,000 yards passing. I believe he's had about 23 passing touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He's been really safe with the ball, really good, and has essentially elevated this offense. And so I guess the point I'm trying to get at with this is I think Houston has a good quarterback in C.J. Stroud, a good foundational piece, your franchise quarterback. But I don't think that he can continue to elevate this team. You can elevate the Texans and make them perform better and beat teams when they're playing opponents that are just not as good. So, for example, when you play Indianapolis, good team, but I could see C.J. Stroud elevating them and helping Houston be better than that Indianapolis' defense. Tennessee game, again, I can see Stroud elevate the offense and help them perform better than Titans' defense. They play Tennessee again, that 5-game stretch. But in that game, Case Keenum played, and he came well and he performed well against against Tennessee. So not really a game to look at. Then the point is, in the past couple of games where C.J. Stroud has played, he's elevated this offense, right? Helped them perform better, but it's not like he's going against an elite defense during these games, right? I could see where a great quarterback can come in and elevate him. And you can only do so much, especially as a rookie. I'm not saying C.J. Stroud can't come in and elevate the offense when they're playing a better defense in the future, right? But I'm just saying right now, he's a rookie, and I don't see him being able to elevate players like Noah Brown and Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz and to perform better than this ferocious Browns defense, who is arguably the best in the entire NFL. So with that being said, I do think Cleveland will win this game because I think they're more dominant offensively than Houston is defensively. And then on the flip side of the ball, the Browns have a phenomenal defense. This secondary, that is mentioned, but even without Grant Delpit, I think their corners are phenomenal. I think they're going to be able to handle this weaker wide receiver and receiving corps that Houston has. I also think this front seven is going to cause a lot of trouble for Houston, both in the running game and in the passing game. Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, Taki, when they're coming at you, JOK, it's a scary sight to see. And one last point I want to make is, for Houston, I don't think they have a running game to hold them into this, to help balance this team out. I don't think Devin Singletary is going to be that guy. So Cleveland's going to be able to just bring normal pressure, stop the run, drop some players back, and really handle this passing game. So I have Cleveland winning this game. The only way, I will say this, Cleveland will win this game by at least double digits, in my opinion, by at least 10 points. They're going to win this game. But the only way Houston has a chance to win this game is if they convert on turnovers. This season, Joe Flacco has thrown a fair share of interceptions. You're going to get turnovers out of Joe Flacco. And in my opinion, they'll get 2 interceptions off of Joe Flacco. The only way Houston will win this game is if they can convert not 6, not 7, not 10 points off of those turnovers, but 14 points. 2 interceptions have to equal 2 touchdowns. And if Houston does that, I think they're hanging in there. I think they might be able to win this game. If they don't do that, they won't win this game, because Cleveland's defense is going to be able to limit C.J. Stroud and this Houston's offense. So I got Cleveland winning this game, but the key to the game for Houston is converting off of turnovers. Joey Flacco, congrats. You're going to make it to the divisional round. The second game I want to look at is the Kansas City Chiefs going against the Miami Dolphins. As we all know, that is the tundra. 0 degree is the high. -8 is the low. -30 wind chill. $30 tickets. Unlimited blankets available at the game. It's going to be freezing. There was a frostbite warning issued in Kansas City for this game. So it's going to be a very cold game. And it's going to be very interesting to see how both of these teams perform. And whether you're Miami or Kansas City, neither team is built for this weather. So the excuse or the idea that, hey, Kansas City might be able to thrive because Miami can't handle the weather, it goes both ways. There's a difference between being able to handle the weather if you're Kansas City and saying, hey, we've played in cold conditions before. 30 degrees, okay, sure. But neither team has ever played in a 0-degree game. Neither team is going to be able to handle it better than the other. It's going to be an issue for both of them. So weather aside, it doesn't matter. Both teams are going to have to deal with it, and it's not going to be beneficial to either side. With that said, I still think Kansas City will win this game by a substantial amount. Kansas City and the Chiefs will beat the Miami Dolphins. And I think they will win this game because Kansas City has more X factors, right? When you enter the playoffs, every team is 0-0. It doesn't matter how you got here. All that matters is that you are here. And with that said, in the biggest stages, the playoffs, the biggest players have to step up and perform the best. Kansas City has more of those big-time players that can step up. I think Chris Jones is the best defensive player out of both of these teams. I think Travis Kelce is going to be able to step up and perform really well. Arguably perform better than Tyreek Hill because of the quarterback they have. The biggest X factor of them all is the quarterback. And Patrick Mahomes, whether he had a shaky year or not, he's going to be able to find a groove, and he's going to win the game, and he's going to perform extremely well. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to go out there and perform really, really well. I also think Kansas City has the best running back in this game in Isaiah Pacheco. I think he's better than Devin Achane. I think he's better than Raheem Mostert. I think he's better than Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill running jet sweeps. At the end of the day, I believe the Chiefs have better players at the most important positions. So with that said, the Kansas City Chiefs will go out there and beat the Miami Dolphins because of the X Factor plays they have. And I also want to point out, I don't think Tua is very good. I don't think he's a great quarterback. And when you don't have a great quarterback to be able to step up and elevate a team, again, it's going to hinder your team. So I have Kansas City win this game because they have more X factors. I like the defense that Kansas City can bring. I know Miami's going to be able to try and be creative. Again, run jet sweeps. It's going to be an interesting game going on. But I believe that the Chiefs have a better offense than the Dolphins have defense. And I also think the Chiefs have a better defense than the Dolphins have offense. So let's look into this a little bit more before we wrap it up. Kansas City, offensively. Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback in the league. Travis Kelce, he's shown his age, but I think he's going to be able to step up and have another great performance. Isaiah Pacheco, a great running back. Rashee Rice, very good. I know the other receivers have had their fair share of drops, like Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Kadarius Toney. But at the end of the day, I think those players are still capable of stepping up. In particular, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Not necessarily also in the receiving game, but in movement, right? Maybe they get the ball in his hands because he's the fastest player the Chiefs have in offense. Get the ball in his hands fast, see what he can do with it. When you have an offensive-minded head coach in Andy Reid, I think you're going to be able to scheme up things. You've been in all sorts of scenarios, whether it was in Philly or Kansas City. He's been in nearly every scenario. So I think he's going to perform really well with this team going against, again, obviously, the Dolphins have some special players like Jalen Ramsey, but I still think that Andy Reid is going to be able to scheme things up and allow Kansas City to thrive offensively. Defensively, Steve Spagnuolo is an amazing defensive coordinator, and I think he's going to be able to find ways, just like Andy Reid has had experience. Spags has had a lot of experience defensively, so I think he's going to be able to find ways to help limit this interesting and fast and explosive offense the Miami Dolphins have at skill positions. I think Nick Bolton's a phenomenal player. Trent McDuffie is good. I think Reed is good. I think Chris Jones is really good. George Karlaftis is extremely good at the end. And with these great players, I think mixed with Steve Spagnuolo's intelligence as a defense coordinator, they're going to be able to find ways to scheme up ways to limit this explosive offense that Miami Dolphins have. And at the end of the day, I also don't think the Dolphins have a quarterback where they can say, hey, Tua, we need you to step up. Again, conditions are going to be interesting. Wind's going to be definitely a big element of it. But at the end of the day, you're going to need somebody to step up. And that's either a quarterback or a running back, right? I don't think they have an explosive running back that can go and bust a move right in late game. I don't think Devin Achane is there yet. I don't think Raheem Mostert's that guy. And I don't think you can say, hey, Tua, we need you to do something. Go out there and make a great pass or make the right read. I don't think he's capable of it. So the Kansas City Chiefs win this game. Weather is going to hinder both teams a lot. It's going to hinder both of them equally. No one has the upper edge on it. And I think the Kansas City Chiefs have better coordinators, better coaches calling the plays, and they can outsmart and out-scheme the likes of Mike McDaniels and Vic Fangio. I think the Chiefs have more X-factor players at more important positions. Chris Jones, best defensive player in this entire game. Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback in the entire league. And Travis Kelce, I believe, will have a better performance and have a bigger impact than Tyreek Hill is going to have. So at the end of the day, I have the Kansas City Chiefs winning this game because they have more X factors and they have the coaches and the staff behind them to help limit and hinder this Miami Dolphins explosive team. So that wraps up this Saturday Super Wildcard recap.